Righty, any objections? We're okay to start. Okay, is Owen, you're in the background there with us? There's a few housekeeping.
I am here, yes.
Okay, thanks, Owen. Okay, to start with, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 4:35 with a number of people present. Now, I'm just going to go over some logistics. In a few minutes, Owen will attendance by roll call. Apparently, that's part of the procedural. Some of these conferences, we have to use the raise hand function, but in our situation, I think we can just do it politely. And if two people are jumping on each other, I'll simply intervene and try and do it. The other thing is we're going to rely on unanimous consent for any emotions, again, because of the nature of what we're into with the virtual part of it. So if anybody wants a motion for and they want to have a more of a better vote, it'll have to be a recorded vote by Owen, okay? Okay, since the other thing we're streaming on through the county's website, there's a statement here. We will open to everybody to the TAC committee, that is the Telecommunications Advisory Committee, meeting today on June 25th. I have been asked to advise everyone and those watching on Norfolk County website that the advisory committee meeting has been limited to electronic participation for June and July. As a measure of transparency, today's TAC meeting is being live streamed on the county's webpage. For our members and those watching on live stream, our agenda is posted on the Norfolk County website on the boards, committee, and commission page. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, going back to the full agenda. Any changes, like an approval of the agenda? If there are no changes. Hearing no objection, I would like to hear, I guess, a vote, a unanimous vote, say yay, I guess. Is that the right term, Owen, or what do you say? Yay works for it? So,
sure, that works.
Or whatever it's supposed to be. Anyways, if you're in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes on my part. Tom? Okay, I assume there's a unanimous consent.
Sorry, Lauren, I was muted. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think that's unanimous consent. So next, any particular disclosure of pecuniary interests? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on. On February 22nd, March, Mark Replay of the Director of Operations for Quick did a presentation. That's in your notes on starting page 3. If you want to grab that and look at it. We now would like to invite Mark to discuss any of the issues that came forward with that. At the same time, Mark, I'll remind you, the Norfolk County policy is about 10 minutes of speaking, and I'll keep track of that. Okay, Mark, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. I think in terms of where we start today, I understand that the intent of the meeting today is more to be in an exploratory fashion and looking forward in terms of the ways that or the programs rather that Norfolk County and possibly partner ISPs might be able to leverage to start moving forward with broadband in areas that right now I think are kind of falling through the cracks of some major programs, whether through specific targeting in those programs methodology, or whether it's through, a particular characteristic of that area. I think the things that we brought forward in the presentation from February 27th, the really salient points there are that long-term and even with the flurry of announcements that have been made in the intervening time between my last presentation to the TAC and today, even with those announcements where ISET announced or has indicated that they're going to ramp up the deployment of the Universal Broadband Fund, with the CRTC extending their broadband fund so that applicants could have a little more time in the wake of COVID, from I think almost every federal political party for a faster roadmap to 100% broadband coverage. All of that being said, from our perspective as an ISP on the ground in a rural area, we still feel strongly that there is a duality in the facilities that needs to be acknowledged, which is that in some areas, as we're seeing with both private investments and public investments via SWIFT or CRTC programming, et cetera, some places will get fiber and some places will get fiber very, very quickly. And indeed, that goes back a few years now as that pattern started to develop. However, there are still places, and this is more just an operational philosophy that we work with. Some places it's a little more effective to deploy fixed wireless and to try to carry that forward and advance on that technology and platform. So those, I think, are the kind of underlying points that I would bring in terms of where we are as an ISP. And I think really what I'm interested to hear and what I hope to get out of this today, not as the representative of an ISP, but honestly just as a citizen of Norfolk County, is let's think creatively and try to collaborate so that we can, or however the TAC wishes to approach it, find something that allows for a possibly untapped or underutilized technique or source of funding to get broadband built out farther. That's really our goal. I know that it's the tax goal. So, in terms of what I talked about in February, I don't think there's a good deal of change there. Everybody on this conference understands the value of fiber optics and understands why operators are currently investing, in some cases, a very high amount per customer to bring fiber optics. It alleviates so many of the classic problems with bandwidth allocation, the asymmetrical nature of previous technologies like DOCSIS and VDSL. Those problems just go away if you choose those techniques in fiber. The long life cycle, and then if properly constructed, the relatively low maintenance. Those are evergreen virtues in favor of fiber, and we don't see that changing anytime soon. I talked a little bit about how we try to target user frustrations with a responsible allocation of fixed wireless segments and sectors. One of the things that is very common and that we have tried to stay away from is to put up a big tall tower, sometimes 250 or 300 feet in height, and put sectors all over the tower at 50-foot intervals, and then basically allocate a 12 to 15 kilometer radius as the surface territory for that tower. That is a feasible approach in a place like New Mexico or possibly Saskatchewan, where there are no trees and the ground is flat and unobstructed. Our long experience in Norfolk, which is one of the most heavily forested regions of Canada, is that that's not really a workable approach. And so the way that we have tried to tailor our delivery model is to acknowledge that it is often more effective to put an 80-foot tower inside a village than it is to put a 300-foot tower 5 kilometers away and hope to cover more with that single tower. The disaggregated model of fixed wireless means that we rarely run into a situation where we have so many clients connected to an access point that the clients aren't able to get their fair share of the bandwidth. And we've also been careful in provisioning to make sure that we are, we're staying well within operating spec for the particular sector in question. One of the things that and the momentum is building for this is that as users who are currently on fixed wireless continue to take in news media and press releases and announcements that there's all kinds of money flying around to build fiber. One of the things that the industry in general is seeing is that not that users are disappointed once they actually get the fixed wireless connection and use it and see that it is suitable for their needs, but there is a definite perception out there, and I touched on this in February a little bit, is that fixed wireless, I believe I said that the user perception is that it's a second-class service. Now, we don't really like looking at it in those terms. Of course, fiber everywhere is the long-term goal, and we support that without reservation. But in the meantime, we think that there's a lot of good that can be done with a properly planned and deployed fixed wireless network. Something that is a significant portion of our business and that we have made a priority to continue evolving and improving because we believe in it. So in terms of, where it leaves us, I think I left this off with, is there a potential partnership that could be explored here, where some of these areas that I think the TAC would agree are areas of need, just not through malice and not through even a targeted decision, but these areas just get left behind either because they are too proximate to already served areas. That's one of the challenges of the broadband fund, is the hexagon approach that the CRTC uses means that a lot of premises get invalidated as eligible. Perhaps there's another factor at work, which is that a program needs to achieve a specific critical mass of premises served, and it ends up resulting in a lower density area that really could use the improved access, simply gets passed over because it just doesn't fit within the deliverables and the KPIs of that particular program. So where that kind of brought us to is to think about if there is a way to maybe design a bit of a novel approach and use a bit of creativity to access funds, or to really, on a base case, just come up with a plan that may lead to a repeatable, sustainable model whereby a municipality and a partner ISP, whoever that ISP ends up being, could start pushing out the boundaries of broadband service in sort of small, manageable segments that end up having a real impact on the users in those geographical areas. So, as I said at the outset, I think really that's what I'm here to kind of hear what the TAC hopes to do and see if there is anything that I can offer and that Quick might be able to offer in terms of putting together a plan. So a summary of my February presentation and a statement of where I think we might be going with this meeting and subsequent discussions. So I think that's, in terms of a summary, that's probably where I'd leave it, and to see where the TAC wishes to go over the next minutes of the meeting here.
Thank you, Mark. At this time, we'll entertain questions from our committee. Doug, do you want to speak first?
Yeah, sure. So a couple questions are on the statements that you made. One was, the ideal solution would be fiber everywhere. Do you have any sense, and I'm just asking as an industry expert for you, how long that might take to actually have 100% fiber everywhere? And then I guess the follow-up to that is, I'm assuming that your solution is more towards mid-rural people going into the hamlets and the smaller areas, and concentrating on clusters of other rural people. Is that kind of it? But then what about the rural, the people that are really off grid? What were your thoughts be on that?
Okay, thank you for the question, Doug. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to what I'm going to call both sides of this coin. So you are right. The ideal solution is fiber everywhere. I'm not an expert in fiber provisioning in the far north and the territories of Canada. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to probably frame my answer in the context of Southwest Ontario. These counties, like Norfolk County, that are, we're going to say, reasonably highly populated, because otherwise it's just an unfathomable number, and I don't know that I could really render it in a dollar value and then translate that to a year value. So in a community like Norfolk County, and I'm just going off of memory here, I think that we're maybe looking at approximately 11 or 12,000 dwellings that would be classified as rural, that don't have access to traditional wireline services, either coax cable, high quality DSL, or fiber to the home. Now, of those 11 or 12,000, I think it's safe to say that thanks to investment by several ISPs and then a partnership with a public program or two over the last few years, that number is certainly falling. There are fewer homes now or premises now that don't have access to good broadband, or sort of CRTC standard broadband via fiber than a couple years ago. If I had to ballpark it, I would say that there are probably somewhere on the order of 8,000 to 9,000 premises out there that are either using legacy DSL as the only option or relying on fixed wireless. Now, not to speak out of both sides of my mouth too much, I think that there's a great deal that can be done using a good fixed wireless connection. And shameless plug, it's the solution I have at my house, and I know that it can work, but you're always at the mercy of physics and the RF environment. To get to your answer, to your question, Doug, it is something that I would estimate is probably more than 10 years away if we continue at the pace of investment that we've currently seen. And one of the reasons I say that is that when ISPs start to model their costs for doing fiber build-outs, there is a startling and frankly frightening diminishing returns on, as you said, the ones who are off-grid. That, more than anything, I think, is going to really delay the last 5%, of getting fiber to everyone. Just to cherry pick a couple of villages that we've been involved in Norfolk County, it's one thing to say that we'll proceed west from Simcoe and then put fiber in Bill's Corners and Green's Corners, Pine Grove, Walsh, and so forth. Those are clusters. Those, as you said, those are groups of premises that are near each other and make sense. It's another thing entirely to say that we're going to do the entirety of County Road 45 west of Highway 59 and the entirety of County Road 23. That's going to take a long time, and from my position, I would be surprised if that happens this decade. I know that there are promises being made. I know that there is a significant amount of rhetoric being devoted to it, and it's not empty talk. There is money behind it, but when you start looking at the modeling of what it actually costs to do it, we are a very, very long way from having even a quorum on the available capital to do it. Bell Canada and Rogers probably could get it done if they decided they wanted to, but that's those are private enterprises with shareholders, and I'm not going to talk about fairness to Canada's big telcos, but it's not something that they would ever do, and I'm sure you know why. So as to the second part here, the way that we try to target the building of our network is, yes, we definitely want to go where there is a cluster of homes, but what we also try to do is we try to make realistic goals for coverage outside of the cluster. So a good example is when we put up an 80-foot tower, which is kind of a favorite of ISPs looking to run on the small cluster model. We would expect that with good antenna optimization and good installation technique, we'd be able to service a good number of people in a 2 to 3 kilometer radius outside that tower, which means that you are in fact getting service to customers who are outside of those rural clusters. So that's been our experience in our model anyways.
Okay, any other questions from Go ahead, Doug, if you have more. What you simply, the members can do if you want to speak to our guests, simply unmute your mic, and then you can speak. If there's a conflict, I'll overrule it. Anybody else want to add questions for Mark? Just a couple of comments on my part. Your 9,000 premises, I think it's about 85 premises are underserved in Norfolk right now. I think it's about 33%. What I see going on right now is the ton of pressure to have things all broadband, especially virtual work and virtual schools, and not rather knowing how many days the kids are going to stay home. There's a lot of pressure. Appears to be a lot of money out there floating around to get things done in a hurry. But at the same time, a lot of the counties are actually cash strapped because of all the COVID-19 goings on. So, Brent, do you have any questions for Mark about what's going on?
I don't know if I have questions about what with regard to funding, with regard to COVID-19. The one thing I was asking about having Mark in back or having him in is, and I think I had asked this, and we also have it as part of the agenda. There is an upcoming rural project that they're asking for expressions of interest. I don't know if it's called CGN or CENGN, Rural Ontario Residential Program. I don't know if Mark's aware of it or has been looking into it all. And one of my questions more towards Mark is, from my experience, I have sat on a meeting with this project, and it's not huge dollars that they're offering. They're looking more of trying to offer better connectivity in just areas that are challenging. So where I'm kind of going with it is, say, for example, and I'm sorry, I guess I have a lot of background in this area. Say the town of La Salette. We know that you have a tower in La Salette. We know that you're providing some sort of broadband there, but the broadband really doesn't meet the new requirements of 50 or 10 or even close to that. So something like increasing the connection to that tower at La Salette, and then offering like a fiber connection to the home in that rural area. Was that something like that kind of project be of interest, and maybe would that maybe qualify for one of these types of expressions of interest? And I'm speaking out. I know I've heard from Councillor Columbus that he's heard some feedback from Teeterville / La Salette about getting better connectivity out that way. And when I saw this, and then I knew that you have a tower out that way, I was just wondering if that would be something that we could maybe possibly look at or review or support even.
Mark?
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up, Brent. And I did, on having a discussion with Owen, I did take a little look at the CEMGM program, the Rural Ontario Residential Broadband. As best as I could tell, they're currently in project number 2, and it appears that the call for expressions of interest closed on May the 29th of this year. Now that's not to say beyond this particular program, I don't know a whole lot about CEMGM, so it could be that they are preparing another intake. To speak generally to a program like that, the dollars may be slightly more modest, but I think that kind of goes to to what I expressed as a hope, which is let's pull every lever we can, and let's find underutilized funding. So the second part of the question, just to use La Salette as an example, there's a couple things that we can do, and that we are actively doing kind of independently of any program, which is there is a long runway left before we get to the end of improvements on fixed wireless. Now, the nature of that means that there are going to be periods when fixed wireless satisfies the minimum broadband standards, and then there are going to be periods of catch up where it doesn't. So if we go back a number of years, and I think we can kind of debate back and forth on the relevance of this, but there have been times in history, and very recent history, when fixed wireless not only met but exceeded minimum standards when the CRTC set them at 1.5 megabits, and then again when the CRTC raised them to 5 megabits. It's been quite a jump from 5 to 50 over 10. But we are making improvements, and we're seeing improvements on a pretty regular basis that give us hope that even if no project materializes and no private investment materializes, either because the business case isn't there or because the grant funding isn't there, even if those things don't happen, we feel that there is still a path forward for serving and improving the level of service to those villages using fixed wireless. So kind of a dual statement for me is we're definitely earnestly aware and working to make sure that places like La Salette and like Teeterville, which are in our service territory and that we've served a long time, that those communities, that they don't end up forgotten communities, that we're making the investments that we can, taking advantage of the technological improvements from hardware vendors. And I'm happy to hear about an opportunity that might be a fit for those areas. And I think I'll share an anecdote that I think kind of speaks to the need to pull multiple levers here, which is that in the CRTC broadband fund applications, which the most recent call closed just at the end of May, the first day of June, there was what I consider to be a methodological error in one of the hexagons, because the hexagon stated that the villages of Wyndham Center and Teeterville were not eligible for the program because there was at least one premise in the area that had 5010 service. Now, in my conversations with the CRTC's program administrators, I was never able to figure out which premise it was, because I think you'll agree with me that it cannot possibly have been a great cluster of them, and the mapping data reflected that based on the color coding that they apportioned for different levels of service. The only thing that I could speculate, and just my disclaimer, this is speculation only, I didn't get an answer, but there is a school in that hexagon, and I think it's a fair statement at this point to say that school is probably getting 5010 service, and that may have been the CRTC's basis for declaring the hexagon ineligible. So, this isn't woe is us, the program criteria were wrong, just simply, I think, more evidence that any program that Norfolk or a partner ISP can tap into is worth looking at, because they will have different criteria. So, Brent, to the question, definitely something that we would be interested in, and possibly that model that you referenced, where there is an increased wireless backhaul into the village, and then there is a fiber to the home distribution from the tower out to the home. We think that's definitely a viable model. We've run a couple different base cases and model scenarios where it looks like that could be a very effective solution for the area in question. So we'd certainly be interested in talking about that.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Brent. What Brent was referring to was on page 15 of your package. That CENGN stands for Center of Excellence in Next Generation Networks. Apparently there's $500,000 available with matching funding from the developer to help in rural Ontario residential broadband program. Interesting, the project number 2 was on May 15th, so we can do discussion about that later, but there's possibilities there. The other thing you were talking about the schools, I think most schools in this area have at least one fiber connection, which may hinder some of the applications. Okay, further questions for Mark? Okay, seeing none. Thanks for your time, Mark. You're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the meeting, okay? I'm looking for a mover to accept Mark's presentation as information. Okay, Joe's going to. Thank you, Joe. All those in favor? I say yes.
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 Okay, and yes here. Okay, that's unanimous, so it passes. Okay, moving on, we've got previous minutes of meetings. The first one's October 24th. That's in your package. We actually at that time did have a quorum, so I'm looking for a mover of the minutes unless there's any errors or omissions. Okay, Joe's going to move that. Thank you, Joe. All those in favor? I guess we'll start with Doug.
Yes.
Joe.
Good. Yep.
Tom.
Yes.
Lauren, yes. I think that's it, right? Passed unanimously. In terms of, okay, the next two are, we'll do them one at a time. The November 28th, we did not have a quorum, so that's going to be considered just received as information only. So any errors or omissions in that package? Seeing none, I'm looking for a mover. Joe, your hand's still up, so thanks for moving that. Oops, he ducked.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
get Doug to do the next one. Okay, all those in favor, start off. Doug,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Okay, it passes unanimously. The next one is the February 27th minutes. Again, that no quorum. So any errors or omissions? Looking for a mover. This one, Doug. Okay, Doug, moving this. Start off by voting. Are you in favor, Doug?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Lauren, yes. It passes unanimously. Any discussion coming out of that? I guess that's later in the minutes. The next thing we'll go to no communication staff. That's 6A in your agenda. And I think that's on page 14. It's the interesting memo about how many premises are underserved in our area. 8,466 underserved premises. I worked that out for population-wise. About 21,000 residents don't have adequate broadband. So, Brent, you want to comment on that, please?
I can just basically tell you this information came from SWIFT, and these numbers are roughly after the SWIFT project is completed. The 3 projects that SWIFT has supported are completed. This information is coming from SWIFT based on their GIS system that they have, and I forward this on because I believe we had received a request from the mayor, and I thought it was relevant information for this group to understand how many are still out there. I don't know if you want any further information from SWIFT about this, I can ask what other information they can provide, but that comes directly from SWIFT, and that is based on what after the 3 projects are completed.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Any questions for Brent about this?
Yeah. So the three projects, can you go quickly just give a brief summary of what those are and when the completion is expected? Do you know?
Yep. I'll do number one. So number one, as they were rated, number one is Waterford area. So the Waterford area is coming from Rogers, and they're bringing their connection down from the Brantford area. So they'll be picking up a number of little hamlets along the way, and it's quite a good project. It's, I mean, we're making quite a bit of funding out of that one because they're offering a lot more to the project. That one. I was under the impression it was supposed to be done in 2021. However, with COVID, this is probably going to be delayed. I don't know by how much.
Okay.
I'm expecting to probably hear from Rogers. I was expecting to hear from this year. I don't know if I still will to find out more information, but I haven't heard any since. The other two projects, next number two is for Turkey Point, the Turkey Point area, and it's going to be done by Execulink Telecom. So Execulink is providing connectivity to all of Turkey Point, and I believe some of above Turkey Point. So they're coming down from their connection that they have from Victoria. I guess it's from Victoria. So it comes down Turkey Point Road, and usually it turns on Victoria Road, but they're just going to take and extend that further down and do fiber to the home. And I think it may get into Normandale as well, but I'd have to look at the project now. I can't remember for sure. And then the last project is with Long Point. The Long Point area is also getting done by Execulink Telecom and they're extending their fiber that they currently have within Port Rowan.
And those
deadlines in the two from Execulink. I also believe they are all supposed to be done in 2021 as well. I don't know if there'll be any delays on them. I know one delay that could happen with so I don't see too many delays happening with Turkey Point. I mean, there could be because of construction and COVID. The one for Long Point, I know the concern was the causeway and how are they going to tackle the causeway, and they're kind of hoping that there was going to be some sort of construction on the causeway, which would allow them to then run that fiber out to do all of Long Point. I guess all depending on the time frame, they may end up having to put a wireless connection temporarily until that is taken care of. That one I would imagine is probably going to be one of the ones that be delayed the most. Will be Long Point. And that's just because I think of the whole causeway concern or issue.
And those were all phase one of the SWIFT, right?
Yeah, these are all phase one. These are the first phase of the project.
Turkey Point had construction in April. It seemed they were going full gun down there for a while. Then they seemed to slow up. I'm not sure if something to do with COVID or whatever, but I think it was Weber was down there laying fiber for them.
Mr. Chair, if I can just maybe chime in a little bit.
Yes, go ahead.
To add to what Brent was mentioning. Actually, I just received some information recently, and as you know, I'm on the SWIFT board. The project in Turkey Point is actually, and I'm kind of knocking on wood when I say this for the minute, is actually going ahead of schedule. It has a completion date of December of this year, 20, but they are suggesting that it's possible that there could be service during September, which is very good news. They did have a little bit of a slowdown due to some COVID concerns, but apparently they have been working those out. And so and that applies also to the forecast service dates for the other two projects. The one in, as Brent mentioned, Waterford, but I think officially SWIFT is referring to that as Wilsonville to Bloomsburg in that general area. And they are forecasting that will actually end up being the last completed phase. It'll be in August of 21. And then the Long Point, as Brent mentioned, there is potential for some delay, but they're pretty optimistic that the timing of that construction on the causeway itself will lend itself very well to the project, and they may, as Brent mentioned, they may need to do some kind of a temporary wireless fix for Long Point, but that is also expected. The forecast on that one is February, late February of 21. So I'm pretty pleased that the three Norfolk projects seem to be pretty much on track.
Okay. Any other comments on what we're talking about right now? Okay, seeing none, I guess on this.
Joe had a
I
question.
think Joe has a
I have a
comment.
question, yeah.
Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Do we know the numbers of people that are being serviced by each project?
We do have that. We do
have that, but I'll let Brent do it.
Yeah, we do have that information. I don't have it available right this moment, but I can send that in an email and then have it. You can discuss it at the next meeting or a future meeting. But I don't have that with me at this point in time. But I can get that information.
Yeah. No, just the communications we have here says how many people won't be serviced when we're done. I'm just wondering how many we're servicing with the project. So
yeah, I can get that and
scale what kind of progress we're making, right?
Yeah, I can get that and send that out. That's not a problem.
Okay, any more discussion about the items?
Okay. I think it is just interesting to note, as Joe said, 21,000 after these three, which the population of Norfolk County sits today at how many?
64,000.
So
33% are not
about
served.
a third of users do not have good broadband.
And I think we're starting to get into the more of the rural areas now. Once these projects are done, we're now getting into much more of a rural areas focus and how to deal with the coverage for those individuals.
Okay. Any further discussion? I assume at this stage, Owen, that we accept the discussion as information, or does that just go in the minutes? How does that work, Owen?
Yeah, I don't think a motion needs to be passed. The discussion stands unless there's a motion from the committee.
Okay, thank you. Seeing there's no motion. Item B, I put that in COVID-19 in Norfolk County Internet Services. I think that's rather obvious. It's the thread through all our discussion items about COVID is driving a lot of projects and a lot of money this way, and a tremendous need, but at the same time, the council doesn't have much money to go into partnerships with it. Any comments on that? Oh, Doug, you want to comment on that?
No.
Okay, I just saw you light up. Okay, seeing that, we'll go to number D now. The SWIFT progress has just been covered in our discussion item C, so we're now at 6D. The Ontario Rural Residents Broadband Program, that's in your package. It's page 15. That's what they're talking about in terms of that CNGN, Center of Excellence in Next Generation Networks. Looks like there's some money available around that. Brent, can you comment on that for us and give us some background, please?
I can a little. Tom might be able to add some information because him and I both were on the same call, I believe. But basically, this one that they're talking about was primarily in northern Ontario, and like I kind of elaborated a little bit, the project that they kind of gave us as an example that they were approving, again, $500,000, even though it seems like a lot of money, but when you're into fiber, it isn't a lot of money. They were looking at an area in northern Ontario where they needed to improve connectivity, and they looked at still using a wireless backhaul, and then from there they had fiber in that area and they supported it. And my understanding is there's supposed to be, as it says, Project 2, which is supposed to be coming down this way where they're looking for openings. Again, though, the funding, even though it does seem to me to be significant personally. When you start rolling out fiber, it gets swallowed up pretty quickly. So I think they're looking for other options versus just, hey, we're gonna expand fiber. So the better coverage, the more advantage to the coverage, the more benefit, the better chances of you getting an opportunity to actually get the funding.
Okay, thank you. Any further or other comments? Okay.
Yes, Lauren, I just want to
Sorry,
mention, just
Tom.
to add to what Brent's saying, I think that that program is pretty encouraging for Norfolk County. The only problem with it is because they're going to expect some kind of contribution from the county. And as you mentioned, I think at the outset of our meeting today, we are in a fairly deep hole already due to COVID-19, and that may have some impact on how that goes forward. I've got our CAO informed about keeping an eye on the possibilities of doing it, because that particular program is tailor-made for particularly the west end of Norfolk County.
Okay, one good thing I saw in there that just in kind contributions too, in terms of people that are already working, you could contribute. Okay, other comments or questions about this? Okay. Okay, none? Okay, we'll move on. In terms of item 6E refers to items deferred from February 27th. So moving on, the first one, in your package on page 17, the public Wi-Fi availability action item follow-up, the update of the list where Wi-Fi is available free in Norfolk. So any comments or questions about that package?
What did the yellow denote again? The yellow X's?
Brent?
I'm just looking. Well, I'm not quite sure. Hang on. I think the yellow ones. So the yellow ones are actually supported by. So we have a couple different things. We have quick internet does provide some sort of coverage, some sort of Wi-Fi access in some of our locations, and some of the locations we provide it, but I'm not quite sure why some are highlighted and some are not. I don't know.
Okay.
I can actually jump in there, Brent. So the yellow highlighted ones, the committee had previously asked for this in 2017. So the ones that are highlighted yellow were additions to the list since 2017.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions about the document? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Our Execulink presentation is in page 21 of your package. Any comments or questions about that? Any additions to it? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. The Execulink out of that package was had a number of questions for Brent about the trenching and any extra costs that may incur trying to work with the Long Point Causeway expansion. Brent, can you comment on that, please?
Basically, I know that they were hoping that when it came to the construction for, actually, I think they're asking for a lot of things, but one thing they're asking for is when we look at the construction for the causeway, that we keep them in the loop, and that we can look at possibly allowing some sort of trench, or having him have an opportunity to be able to trench so that they can put fiber in there. So I think it's more of, they're really hoping that when Public Works starts looking at this with the engineering department, that they are keeping Execulink involved, or keeping them, remind them. And I believe the whole time, to my knowledge, when talking with our staff from Public Works and Engineering, that they have been trying to do their best to inform Execulink as to their plans, future plans for this project, so that they can look at putting fiber down. And I also know that Public Works, Execulink is also interested in more and more having a agreement with Norfolk County for basically anywhere that they're running fiber. And I know they've had agreements in the past, but they were kind of hoping for like a standing agreement that we would have with any of our ISPs that are doing trenching, that they already have the kind of an agreement in place, a standing agreement. And I know we were working with, I think it's still with the lawyer right now to kind of work this out. So I think they have something in draft. engineering has something in draft of Public Works, and it's being reviewed by legal, and I'm not quite sure where it's at right now, but it's still not done.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along, Starlake discussion, item 4 there on the follow-up. It's in your package, starts on page 25. Recall that Elon Musk has been shooting up a lot of satellites, and I guess they're painted in black now so they don't flicker in the night. I get a kick out of Facebook. A number of people are saying they saw a UFO, but I think a lot of it is the new satellites that supposedly can really address the rural area. Doug, you and I had some email discussion. You want to carry this on, Doug?
Yeah, so looking at the numbers, like we've seen, the 21,000 that are underserved or not served at all. Looking at the numbers that come out saying that we have 65,000 kilometers of roads that need fiber, basically, to get to the CRTC's level of acceptable level 5010, and giving us the cost on that, it means that it's over $105 million to serve the entire community to get success. And what Mark Rapley said there was that in his estimation, his is an estimation, but I would say that he's probably underestimating 10 years to be able to accomplish this. If we look at the phases of SWIFT, and not to say that those are not important to get fiber to certain areas, but to look at that, we're at $5,000 per resident of those 21,000. That's our cost to get them the 5010 if we're doing it by traditional methods. It's just not feasible. And the technologies that people are recommending and the telcos are recommending are existing technologies that they have at their disposal, and they're trying to be creative with things and use the new technologies to a certain degree. But I really think that this is something. What they're doing here with the Starlink is with the low Earth orbit satellites to provide high-speed broadband internet to rural. That's their purpose of this. And I think anytime that anybody comes in as a disruptive technology to the major telcos, they're up against a little bit of a battle. And I believe Starlink has actually requested of the Canadian government to be able to license their product and get access to the market. I think we need to start putting some pressure from our municipality upwards to the province, to the federal government, and make sure that people are aware that this, in my opinion, this is the solution that for the least amount of money and quickest time frame can get those 21,000 people on high-speed broadband internet.
Okay, further discussion? I'll throw my 2 cents in. Part of it is they're looking for beta testers. I don't know if we'd go as far as recommending that we ask for a beta test in this area. I don't know if that's even legal now with those satellites, but it's in the package. Okay.
I will say that I've already put in, and I know a number of people in this area have already put in to be beta testers. But I think that's the joy of this, is that there's no other. This is a monthly subscription, essentially. That's what it will be. You'll sign up for this, similar to the way that Elon is doing the Tesla. You order it online and it shows up at your door. But this is going to be similar. It's going to be go online and you get a pizza box satellite dish that you put on the top of your roof, and you then will have high-speed broadband internet. This is not waiting for someone to dig up our county roads, to put up poles to your house, to your cottage, to wherever. This is going to be available. It's whether our governments choose to allow it from a regulatory standpoint or not. And so that's where I think we as the committee need to ask the mayor, the council, to whether it's write letters to the province, to the federal government, to make sure that the citizens of Norfolk County can have access to this.
Okay. Is it currently not available to Canadians because it's a different technology? Is that what's going on now?
It's currently not available to anybody. They're hoping for fall of this year to be able to go out either with a beta test in northern U.S. and the southern parts of Canada, but they need to get approvals to be able to do this stuff in Canada and over whatever country that they're going for. So they're actually putting in whatever their regulatory requirements are to be able to offer this service. But of course, that's 21,000 citizens of Norfolk County that the major telcos may not be able to get access to. So,
okay. Any comments from the rest of the committee?
I think it's definitely a technology of the future, and I definitely think it's something we need to support. I'm still debating on how it's going to happen because a lot of the U.S. satellite providers, like Bell and other ones, have piggybacked off their technology to still offer the service. So how this comes into Canada, I'm not sure, but definitely something we should be supporting. I see lots of benefits because there are lots of areas where people are just not gonna they're not gonna be able to get that anything better than this because just where they're located and the tree coverings and the surroundings. I can't see us getting fiber to everyone to begin with. So it definitely is something we should be looking at or supporting.
Okay. Further discussion by anyone in the committee?
I would totally agree with what Brent just mentioned, and Doug, I think that you're right on. We need to start somewhere with this. It appears to be one of the few actual options we might have. And again, I'm just kind of focusing a little bit. I have my personal bias because I represent Western Norfolk. We have so many roads with 2, maybe 3 houses on them. They are never going to get fiber. This may give them hope.
Okay. Doug, would you like to follow that up with a motion?
yes, I would absolutely love to have a motion on this.
Okay, would you?
I will, I guess, put forward a motion that we encourage the mayor to communicate with the province and the federal government to make sure that, Starlink doesn't run up against any red tape or undue red tape, so that, other technologies that can offer, it doesn't have to be that company in specific, I guess. So Owen, please rephrase my motion as you see fit.
For us?
Yeah, I actually had something drafted up. I'll just say it here. That the Telecommunications Advisory Committee requests that Norfolk County Council forward a letter to the CRTC to request the approval and acceleration of the space explorations company's open basic international telecommunications service license application. Does that work?
I think I like that. I would like to see it copied to our MP and MPP.
That's good, Owen. Yeah.
Joe, you.
Yeah, I'll add that in.
Okay.
Can we expand on it? Just some suggested wording, expanding on it from SpaceX, Starlink technologies and similar technologies.
I think that's a good idea, actually. It's more political. Owen, that okay?
Sorry, could you repeat that, Joe?
So we will refer to SpaceX, Star. We'll support their application, and similar technologies.
Sure.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Discussion? Anybody? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, I'll go through the list. Doug?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Lauren, yes. Unanimous. It passed. Next is the Norfolk County Committee advertisements. Owen, what's that about? I see.
So that was an update from February, from one of our, it was just a deferred update. We advertised in February and September, so we'll be advertising again in September for committee vacancies. We have a number on this committee. And I think in February, somebody asked about the ad in the paper, and that's what it was.
How many spaces do we have room on this committee right now? 2?
No, I believe there's 6 open positions, because I believe there's 11 positions on the committee.
Yeah, okay. Great, thank you. In terms of other business, I did send in a memo to people that Diane Finley, there was an article on Snapchat, I guess it is, and in Facebook that Diane was directing people to her internet survey to help with looking at where funding should go to in terms of getting better internet for people in this area because everything's going virtual. So that was just information. The other thing I wanted to bring up was in your pack, you had in your e-package was the information package about the WOWC, that's the Western Ontario Wardens Committee recommendations, etc. It was quite a lengthy document. I tried to get my head around it, but didn't work out that well. And did anybody get through that and make sense of that? Or could you help us with that, Owen? That package? There's a lot of recommendations, a lot of information. We were mentioned a few times. There's dollar figures, etc.
Yeah, that was a recent communication sent out by the mayor's office, which I thought would be of interest to the committee. I'm sorry, I'm not too familiar with the details of it, but we did send it out, do a press release on it, and it was included in our information package. I just thought the committee should be aware really of the first couple pages there.
Okay, good. Yeah, in terms of, it looks like there's a lot of things in the works right now, so that's good that way. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, Lauren,
Sorry, go ahead.
Just a couple thoughts. I did go through it. I needed something to read, I guess. But just some of the things that I found of interest was, the amount of admin that we're spending. Like the numbers that I came out with, the 65,000 kilometers of road that needed fiber, and just some of those things were straight from this. We're a very rural area, and we have a lot to cover. The cost of this stuff, when you're looking at admin and overhead on a lot of it, a lot of this investment goes to that. And that's, I don't know whether that's my background or what, but I just look at it. It's very interesting to see how much is going to admin, and to look at a $500 million project and we don't even get where we need to be from the whole region. $105 million investment if we're going to get there. It's just lots and lots of money, and to the point that we had before on our last motion. I'm always a little cautious with the SWIFT just because fiber is built into that name. It's almost in their mandate that they have to go with fiber and look at other technologies. They do mention in here let municipalities decide if they want to allow wireless proposals in their region, but it's kind of a side thought, and I really think they need to broaden their scope of stuff. Michelle?
Doug, just to be clear, I know that SWIFT has sort of an image that they are fiber, but they are not. No. They are willing and interested in just the whole goal is connectivity, and however it happens, as long as basically the achievable goal of 50/10 is what they're trying to get. So they are not totally committed to fiber. I know a lot of people think they are, but they are not wedded to fiber exclusively.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps a rebrand.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I just to add that being that as part of the evaluation for the SWIFT proposals for Norfolk County, it's very challenging right now with the wireless technology to meet that 50-10 requirement for a large area. And we did have a couple submissions, and we did ask some questions, and it really comes down to meeting that 50-10. And there, I think Swift is hoping, like anyone else, that technology, that wireless technology, when it comes around to phase 2 or phase 3, maybe it does perfect itself to the point that we can offer it, because I think they also realize that we're not going to be able to get fiber to everywhere, especially in Norfolk County, and they need to find something else. But at the time, it's a challenge finding something that's going to meet that like 50-10 is quite a big jump, but at the same time, I have to agree that I think it's needed for any home user to be homeowner down the road.
Okay, good. Any other comments? Okay, any other business anybody wants to bring up? Looks like Tom.
I noticed that you from the agenda there was a Norfolk COVID and technology, and I didn't really say much, but yeah, just an update from the county services and support. We have quite a few people now, and I'm sure other people are working from home, and there's some of them are struggling with the connectivity from their home to do work. Some are not. It has been a challenge. We do the best we can with them, but if we had to start doing work from home all the time, there's definitely some places that would definitely need to improve for it to be a proper work from home type solution. So we've had to offer work at home for quite a number of individuals, and they are doing well at it, and they are being productive. But connectivity is still a concern in some of these areas.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other items you can bring up? Tom? No? Okay. Our next meeting is going to be July 23rd at 4:30. Again, it's going to be a virtual meeting. This is my first meeting at chairing a virtual meeting. I like Brent's spaceship. The rest of you guys, I guess, walk.
We'll try to step it up.
Yeah. So any suggestions how to speed the meeting up, or any ways of doing it, fine. Just shoot me an email. I have thick skin. Other than that, I'm looking for a motion for adjournment. Joe, want to move that? Anybody want to move it? I don't think Joe's it. Okay, that was Tom. Tom moved for adjournment. Doug, in favor, yes or no?
Yep.
Joe?
Yep.
And myself, yes. And Tom?
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, thanks for attending the meeting. The meeting is over with. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Owen.
Yeah, anything you want to say, Owen? We're all set?
Okay.
Yep, we're all good.
Okay, thank you for checking out. Thanks, Owen.
Yeah, and there won't be a meeting in August, just so you know.
Oh, right, yeah. That's
Okay.
council. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Just kill everybody somehow. We're done. We're done.